Hello, everyone. We're coming to you live from the Darwin German Real Estate Studios here in beautiful Valley Ranch. Actually, our studios are in our new corporate offices, which we have bought and closed on, I think it was in March of this year, Ben. So we're happy to be here. It is a large office space that we desperately needed. Darwin German Real Estate has been around for, in various shapes or forms, over 30 years. And I'm proud to say that I am a part, albeit a small part, of the whole operation. I'm excited to always have my contribution. So Darwin German Real Estate, for those of you who may not be familiar with, is a real estate investment company that specializes in multifamily properties, large multifamily properties. I think the smallest property we have is 60 units, and we go well up over 300. The emphasis that I give is that multifamily is where we feel is the greatest opportunity for a real estate investor, and that's why we exclusively focus on multifamily. I'm joined today by Mr. Ben Mandlestein, a young man that I got to meet, and I think we've known each other now about six months. I was very impressed with you when I met you, Ben, and as a result, I am pleased that you were willing to accept my invitation to join our co-sponsorship program. Darwin German Real Estate has a program. It's called the co-sponsorship program for people who are very much interested in doing what we do, that do not have the level of experience that we do collectively here at Darwin German Real Estate, and therefore they're able to come alongside of us and participate in the same investments that we do while getting mentoring that is quite literally hands-on. So it isn't just a course or some teaching, some classes. We're actually bringing someone into our family, because I consider this the Darwin German Real Estate family. So Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are interested in real estate, and give us a little bit of what your experience has been so far.
Thanks, Julian. Yeah, really thrilled for the opportunity to be here talking to you today. So from Austin, Texas originally, went to the University of Texas, studied economics, always been very into investments, finance. Moved to Dallas when I joined a large tech company here about 4 years ago. So I was an account manager there, had some good success, and have moved into a program manager role. So now responsible for about 140 account managers worldwide. And we focus on programs that will generate more revenue for our cloud business.
Oh, that's great. So how many, I'm sorry, 130?
Roughly 140.
That's pretty impressive for a young man. I don't know your exact age, but I know you're a little younger than I am. And so you've been with the with your corporate role how long now?
About 4 years now.
Well, that's pretty impressive. Anybody who's only been in corporate America for 4 years and has elevated their position to where you are now, I'm impressed. So,
thank you.
Which doesn't really surprise me. And I'll say this again, the reason that you and I are talking today is because I truly felt that your qualities, the person that I got to know, was somebody that we would definitely like to be partnering with. And so therefore, I'm just sure that you're going to do the exact same thing, if not better, that you've done in corporate America in real estate. Now, tell me about your real estate experience. How much real estate experience and how long have you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off, I had money in mutual funds similar to my parents and their background, and I didn't like it, wasn't tangible, so I knew I wanted to get into real estate. I didn't know what it was. One of my coworkers at the time told me I should look at multiple units instead of getting a single family house. Mm-hmm. So I started off with a fourplex or small multifamily property in Austin. With an economics background, I was always looking at the path of progression and areas that were getting a lot of investment, mm-hmm. And neighboring areas that looked like they were going to be the next opportunity to raise up and kind of gentrify.
That was your first project?
So my first project was a fourplex about 4 years ago. And I didn't know a whole lot then. I kind of jumped in. to get my feet wet and get going. And then read a really good book, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, that really changed my mindset and made me start to look at it more of a science and really focus on the numbers. So did well on that property. It's appreciated about 30% in the last 4 years.
You still own the property?
I still do. Yep.
Okay.
So we've done some different improvements to the property. We got it appraised, and it's gone up about 30% in value since the time we've owned it. And it's
Excellent.
cash flowing about $2,000 a month. So that was the first property.
The fact that you talked about the cash flow, that really impresses me more than the equity growth. We do invest in real estate. We invest for both equity, and cash flow. But the cash flow is what pays the bills. The cash flow is what we put in our pocket every month. The cash flow is certainly in multifamily what makes the value of real estate go up. Unlike single-family homes are valued by what other properties in the specific location, submarket, whatever you want to call it, what they're selling for, comparables. Where with multifamily, if you've got two identical apartment properties right next to each other, same age, same size, and one is being run better and therefore is generating more cash flow than the other, that one is going to be valued higher. So I'm glad you talked about the cash flow. So around $2,000 a month, that's pretty good. You know, there are a lot of people in this country that are making $2,000 a month at a full-time job. No, I'm not saying that would be a large corporate job,
Right.
but you know, there's people that only make $2,000, $3,000 a month, and so therefore I applaud you for that. So what other kind of projects have you gotten into?
Yeah, absolutely. So after that, we decided we wanted to dip our feet in the water with Airbnb. So we brought a duplex in Bishop Arts, Dallas, that we remodeled to make it look really nice and pretty for Airbnb. Did a layout where we could have large groups of people, whether it's church groups, bachelor parties, any kind of large group. We saw a need that there wasn't a lot of properties that could hold large groups at a medium level price. The ones that could hold large groups were very, very expensive. So we did that, and we ran that until the pandemic started. And then at that point, we decided to pivot, and so we sold off the furniture, and now we have long-term rentals. So while we did make more money being Airbnb, it was very time intensive. So I learned a lot from it. One thing I've always been looking at, what is the best place to focus my time, energy, money within real estate. So we did a flip earlier this year. We have now a total of 7 of small multifamily properties in Dallas, a long-term hold. But really what I've seen is with the larger properties, you can with the same amount of time and effort, you can generate much more income, and it's really more worthwhile. It's more scalable. So that's what's brought me here today to talk to you guys, and I'm so thrilled to be part of the co-sponsor opportunity, is to take the hustle and the passion I've had, and the total of 9 deals I've done so far, and with my 10th deal, wanting to do a much larger deal, bringing in more friends and family that want to partner with me. I have 3 current partnerships, so 3 different partners. I have a partner in LA, a partner in Austin, and then my parents also partner with me. But seeing just the structure of a syndication, it makes a lot more sense. The same amount of time that I can put into one large apartment versus the same amount of time in a smaller building with one of my partners. So.
I hear you. Let me expand on that a little bit, or allow you to expand on it. So the smaller properties and projects that you've done have either been financed by yourself or one other individual as a partnership.
That's correct.
And now you're wanting to get into syndication. Okay. Well, for the benefit of those that are going to be watching that don't really understand what syndication is, such a sophisticated word, tell them what exactly is your goal with syndication, and why you feel that vehicle will propel you to a different level.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So what I really like about syndication is you have experts who are leading the deal, and then you have a lot of passive investors who really want the return. Some of them are more interested in the details. Others just want to beat the rest of their portfolio and get well into double-digit average annual returns. But I really like with my economics background, I love the scientific approach that you guys take. I love how it's data driven, that you're able to look at all the rents in different apartments. And when you put together your projections, you have a confidence level that you're not able to get on the smaller deals. So what I really like syndication, you're able to group a lot of people together, get them a great return, while having a really strong core team who's running the deal, analyzing it, and with y'all's experience, both you and Darwin having 30 plus years of experience, feel so fortunate to kind of jump in front of the line and to be able to partner with somebody and able to do a syndication.
So folks, to elaborate a little more, syndication is a vehicle that's used to buy larger properties by getting a group of individuals to invest in that particular property. So there would be a deal sponsor, which you would be a sponsor of that deal. You would have the ultimate responsibility as to acquiring it, closing on it, and managing it. So basically, the profit and loss responsibility falls squarely on your shoulders. The individuals that are going to put their money into it are what we call passive investors, and though they're intimately aware via monthly reports of what's going on these projects and these properties, they don't have a day-to-day role. Their role is to wait for the cash flow, which is what we like to talk about, as I alluded to earlier. What I find impressive about you, and is that at your age, I would have been terrified. I mean, utterly terrified to know that I was going to be taking other people's investment dollars and having full responsibility for it. So you've been in real estate about 4 years now, and you've proven to yourself and those that have been willing to go along with you that you can do this. I've got to believe you're fully confident that you could take your experience and multiply it 10, 15, 20 times, because that's essentially what you'd be doing in taking a 4-unit project and turn it into a 50, 60, 75, 100-unit project. How do you feel about that? Does it humble you? Does it scare you? Does it challenge you?
Yeah, to be honest, it's really exciting, and it's something I know I've always wanted to do. Before I learned about the syndication, I figured it'd be way further in my future, maybe 10, 15 years out. But I thought I would grow more organically, doing little properties, maybe doing a 1031 exchange as Darwin's brother's done. But just the opportunity to do this so soon is so thrilling, so exciting. And I knew it was my end goal of where I wanted to get to. So very, very excited to kind of fast forward and kind of cut to the front of the line to have that opportunity.
Well, I'm glad you say cut to the front of the line, but it's really not a negative. He's not really going to be cutting anything. It's such a negative connotation. Essentially, a syndication, it's a pretty complex and complicated structure of doing business. You have to raise capital. You have to do it under the auspices of the Securities and Exchange Commission. You have laws and rules that have to be followed. There's accounting, there's legal, there's a myriad of steps and people that are involved, and a sponsor has to navigate all of those things. And as smart as you are, you don't have that experience yet. And so that's why when I said earlier that we have a co-sponsorship program, it gives an individual like Ben, when we recognize someone who has that natural talent that bend towards business, that we can nurture them, and then we can basically flatten out that learning curve, wouldn't you say?
Yep.
And therefore, all of the steps that one would have to take, that would take years, literally years, to learn on your own, we can bring you into our organization and take all of that years of learning and put it aside, and that's what he means by cutting to the front of the line. What that also does for him is that when an individual goes to the lender, a bank, someone who is always going to be the largest investor in any project, and wants to sell that project to them, when I say sell, I mean convince them that this is a project worth doing and they should loan them the money, they want to know that this individual has experience, has competency, has a business plan, and we bring that to the table. So when Ben is going to go to a lender to look for a 5, 7, 8, $10 million loan, which is quite sizable if you think about it. Most people on average will borrow 200, 250, 300,000 to buy their home. When you're borrowing millions of dollars, the due diligence that the lenders do is quite extensive. So we will be able to take him to the lender, and along with us, he will be able to acquire the financing needed to do these projects. Did you know, or did you think when you started off on this path that it would be so complicated, that getting into larger projects would be so complicated?
You know, I did a lot of research, and that's also why I put it 10, 15 years out. And looking at other programs, other options, there's a lot of people who are gurus wanting to take, whether it's $20,000, $30,000 just to teach you. But to have the opportunity to, hold your team's hand and walk through every single step of the way, it's given me so much more confidence. And that's an amazing value that, I'm thrilled that this opportunity exists and that there's a program like this out there.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I'm sure that over time you've been exposed to other organizations, other programs, if you want to call them that offer training, offer boot camps and weekend sessions, but they don't really hold your hand. They don't really take you through A to Z,
Right.
and also are fully responsible for that program along with you. Have you found any organization that does that?
No, not at all. And they're happy to take your money. They're happy to give you their training. But what I also liked is that you guys vetted me. You saw what my background is. You checked to make sure I'd be a fit. Because at the end of the day, DGRE's name is on the building. If the project is unsuccessful, it's unsuccessful for you guys as well. So the fact that you guys have that much skin in the game separates you from any other companies I've looked at.
Well, when I was your age, and I've been in the real estate business well over 30 years, there was nothing like this. If you were fortunate enough to find someone who was willing to share with you, that was great. But someone who was willing not to only share their knowledge, but to actually partner with you and come alongside you, that was just totally unheard of. And if there were, I'm sure it would have been unbelievably expensive.
Right.
How much are you paying to do this? I mean, are you being charged anything to be part of this program?
So I'm making a financial commitment to working with you guys, but there's not any charge as far as money. So
It was a setup question.
Okay.
It was a setup question. But
All right.
basically, folks, there's no fee. We don't charge. We're not selling anything to
Right.
Ben. What we are bringing to the table is what we know he needs, and what he's bringing to the table is he's a young man with a diverse background, and we will never be those that will say we know everything. And we know for sure that Ben can bring something to us that we can learn from him, that he could probably look at something and say, I would probably do this slightly differently. Well, I'm sure you've done that in your corporate environment,
Absolutely.
where things that have been done for years, and you came in and said, let's see, how can we improve? I've got to believe you've done that. If that hadn't been the case, you wouldn't be where you are.
Right.
After only a few years at the company, and you've got all these accounts. So that is where the co-sponsorship program started, in that it's not only one-sided. So Ben will definitely be benefiting from our program, but we're going to benefit from your relationship. And I challenge you to do just that, to help us see things better, differently, and help us grow. Because the old saying is, if you're not growing, you're going backwards. And
Right.
so you're going to be growing in your experience, and your portfolio is going to continue to grow. Because right now, I think you said you've got 10 projects.
We've done 9 deals, 8 active properties. We
Oh,
haven't
8
sold
active
one.
properties. And so you're going to escalate where you are now many times over.
Oh,
and I dare say you have no idea of how much this is going to propel you in the next 12, 24, 36 months. And I so look forward to seeing what you're willing to do. Tell us a little bit of something about we've been talking about your business acumen and your experience, but tell us a little bit about Ben. Tell me about your background, your family, a little bit of that.
Yeah, great. I appreciate you asking. So both my parents have had a successful career in the corporate world, although they never really knew how to make their money work for them. They invest their money in index funds and just didn't touch it, didn't look at it. So coming from that background, I knew I wanted to do something differently. Got an amazing wife. We've been married for, 18 months now, roughly. But we've been dating for over 10 years. We met in
Wow. Talk about a commitment.
We met in driver's ed back when we were 16 and been together since. So she's awesome. She's a school teacher, so with the pandemic and everything going on, bless her heart,
Wow.
she's in there and taking care of the kids and making sure they've got a safe place to go, making sure they have a clean environment. So she's an amazing person. I'm very lucky to have her by my side. With that being said, she's very excited about this opportunity as well, and she believes this is going to be her last year teaching, so she can fully join me in this effort and be by my side as we look to the future of what we want to do together. Her background, she really wanted to be an interior designer, so she loves looking at the properties, loves looking at the leasing office, how things could be changed up. As our flip, she basically did all by herself, so she helped find the property, controlled all of the different elements of the project. So she's very good on the design part. I focus on the numbers and the relationships, networking. But yeah, really lucky to have her by my side and really excited about what we can do together.
Well, that's excellent. There are those those couples or these partnerships, if you will, that it's more one side. One individual is the business aspect of the relationship and the other is not necessarily that involved. But there's no doubt that when both of you are involved and interested in doing that is going to help you in the long run. So she didn't have any real estate experience prior to both of you doing this. So in other words, what I'm asking is, did the all your projects, were they done with her?
Yeah.
So it wasn't prior to you getting married?
Yeah, so everything she we were basically knew we were going to get married before we got married. So she was by my side every project we did. It was actually her stepdad played a large part as well in looking at apartments specifically. So there was a networking group in Austin he brought me to, and he had passively invested with a sponsor out of San Antonio. So that was my first taste of syndication, was her stepdad. He actually ended up buying a fourplex across the street from our first deal we did and has been very successful with that. So she'd been around it. She knew her stepdad was very into that. He also does a solar installation as well. So he's around networking with real estate professionals. But she hadn't done anything herself. She loves interior design. It's always on Pinterest looking at different boards. She didn't know how to monetize that and turn that into a career. So when she saw how she could do that with real estate, and that is an area I think she's much stronger in than me, is in the actual design. It seemed like a perfect way that we could partner together and have that.
Well, you tell me that her background is teaching, so right away I know that she's a people person, someone who cares for other people. In the multifamily business, that's what we do. As you well know, we're responsible for rental property, and that's where people live. And so we have to be not only responsible, we have to really want to be able to provide good quality housing for people and to make sure that we deliver that every day. And so I can see that she's going to be an asset for your team. Tell me, or tell those that might be watching this, what it is about multifamily that makes you feel it's the right place for you.
Yeah, that's a great.
And let me interrupt briefly. And I ask you that because real estate seems to be the buzzword these days. Everybody's in the real estate. You can't turn on a television, you can't look at a magazine or a newspaper without reading something about real estate, whether it's real business or get rich quick. So Ben, there are a lot of sources for real estate education and training. How did you get to a point where you felt that DGRE, or Darwin German Real Estate, was going to be your source of education and training?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really started on a podcast I was listening to Darwin talk about one of their properties getting hit by a tornado, and just what their management team did to ensure that everything was okay, and how they ended up actually with a better property. So reached out to Darwin on LinkedIn, and he invited me to come to one of their meetups that they were doing before the pandemic started. When I got there, the first person I talked to was Anon, actually, who was one of their first co-sponsors. And Anon had done business with many other sponsors, and he invested, I believe, something like $800,000 with DGRE. And just his word on how DGRE operates compared to the other syndicators, how they are much more conservative, how historically they've overachieved their projections for their passives. And then also talking to many other people at these meetups. Both me and my wife were just amazed at how many of the people were repeat investors. And once they had invested with DGRE, they didn't look elsewhere. They were just waiting for the next project that they can get in. With my background, I'd done sales training in the corporate world. I saw a lot of these salesy gurus, but to see the authenticity, to see the culture that their group had, just how loyal that their passive investors were to them, just showed me that these were really quality people to work with, very honest, that they always put their investors' money first. And they're open about every single one of their deals. They're not trying to hide anything. They're not trying to show, hey, we're this fantastic thing. They're very open, honest, and they show the numbers on their properties. One of those meetups, they sold a property, and all of the passive investors got to go up on stage with a giant check. And it was just a cool thing to see how excited those investors are. So really, it wasn't just, hey, this is part of my portfolio that's performing well, but it was a networking event. It was people who became friends through DGRE events, and ultimately just the thrill that they felt that they were part of that building's success. So just loved the group, and I knew it was very different than any other group or offering or anything else out there.
I'm glad you say that, because I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from investors that have been with us for years. And it's gratifying that it's not only something I've heard years back, but today I'm still hearing it. And I'm very confident then a year from now, I'm going to continue to hear those compliments about Darwin German real estate.
Absolutely. And the fact that you guys haven't started in 2012 to now, and all boats have risen and everyone's done well, but y'all have been through the recession. Y'all have had a property get hit by a tornado. So you guys have been through it, you've seen it, and that gives me the confidence that you're the right partner that's going to help me be successful.
I had mentioned earlier that there are a lot of areas or places to acquire training and education, though we're not primarily a teaching or mentoring organization. Our co-sponsorship program is a education and training, mentoring centric program, but it's not open to everyone.
Right.
And so I want the public to know that first and foremost, we're an investment company. Our main responsibility is to have returns on our projects for our investors, and it is not to charge thousands upon thousands of dollars for someone to come and get an education or to get some kind of boot camp. That's just not what we do, as you will know. And so therefore I just wanted to put it out there that it is something that is more investment centric. Tell me what it is specifically about multifamily that you feel is the right fit for you.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Something I put a lot of thought into as well. As you've heard, I've dipped my foot in the water doing Airbnb, fix and flip, small multifamily. But really what I like is how you guys are able to take a property and a community at that and improve the community, make it a better, safer place to live. You're able to take any problematic tenants out and just make it your management team is fantastic. Just talking to them, you can tell how they make each of your properties a better place to live. So I love the giving back. My wife is a big part of that as well. And then with my economic background, just the numbers seem to work so much better with apartments. The revenue that these properties can generate. And then being in the corporate world, just like my parents, I've seen a lot of people who don't know anything else but the stock market. So the investing opportunity for people who never want to do real estate full time, but it's a way for them to get into real estate and have their properties professionally managed, have a really good quality team taking care of their investment. I think it's a big gap in the corporate world. People don't really look at having their portfolio and why they should have part of their portfolio being in real estate. You are giving up liquidity. You're not being able to put your money in, pull it out, but that's part of the reason why you're able to get that higher return. So with my economics background, getting into corporate America, networking with lots of different people, being at the large tech company, I just saw there was a huge opportunity to help both other people with their investments, help make communities better places, and at the same time, it's win-win for both the community, for the investors, and for the sponsor group.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It encompasses everyone that is involved, because it isn't just investors, it's not just a lender. We depend on the tenants. If the tenants don't pay their rent, then obviously the project fails. So it's easy, maybe not easy, it's easier to buy property than it is to manage it.
Right.
Management is everything. That is where the rubber meets the road, and it's the everyday task that our management company has, keeping the property running smoothly, making sure the tenants' needs are taken care of, work orders are taken care of, and that is that's really the key to everything, and that makes a project successful. We've talked about this before, not here today, but we've talked about the fact that real estate has a way to make money in so many ways. One is when we purchase the property, there's equity capture, there is cash flow, there is forced depreciation, there are tax benefits, there are just a host of ways for an investor to make money. And I say all this because you talked about the paradigm that we've seen in corporate America for so many years, that it's the stock market where you put your money. And it's in mutual funds, or it's in individual stocks or ETFs, and they might be liquid, but their average return, if I'm not mistaken, I think the average return over the past 50 years or so, I think it's something like a 7% annual return if you're doing well. But that is just the return, where in real estate we can also shelter that cash flow, that return, by depreciation, by a variety of other things. When you talk to the individuals that you would like to come into your investment or invite into your investments, are they aware of this, or is this something that you have to educate them as well?
Yeah, a great question. I think a lot of people have heard of the fix and flippers on TV. They might know about cash flow, but most single family houses are lucky to break even. So I think the other benefits, especially the tax component, a lot of people aren't aware of. So yeah, I'd say it's a mixture. But definitely something I love teaching people about. It's funny you say that. I remember before I started investing, I remember looking at an article that compared how does real estate do versus the stock market over 30 years. And in that article, it showed that the stock market was better, but what it didn't take into account was the rent that the property was getting. It only looked at just the value over time. So it didn't take account of the leverage that they were getting. So right now, interest rates are anywhere from 2 to 4%. So if you're getting 7%, but 70% of that's the bank's money, that inflates your return. So it was a very misleading article, and I've personally experienced that. We've gotten great tax benefits from the properties we have. So, but again, it's more important why we work with professionals like you guys that have gone through that process, who've gone through the process of fighting the property tax values. So you have all the team in place. You have basically the right formula to make my project successful. So that's what really interests me in working with a company with like you guys, and gives me the confidence that I'll be successful in this deal.
Well, I'm glad that you have come to the the point in time where you feel that we're a good fit for you, because we feel that about you. We are pleased to have you on board, and we look forward to your success, your continued success, and to what great things that you will do in your near and long-term future. So welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Julian. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us, folks, and we look forward to coming to you in the near future with some updates on Ben and his endeavors in real estate. Until then, thanks for joining us.